ada nama lain, you know, some people say there's an operating room, ada tempat lain yang menyatakan surgical suite or anything else lah. But anyway, it is a place where surgery or any procedure is done, carry out. Depending on the setup of the places, some places has diagnostic, therapeutic procedure done also in the operating theatre. Some places has endoscopic room inside the operating theatre, but not in our cases lah. So when you design operating theatre, it must be safe and run efficiently. It is important to have it done, and also beside that, it must be comfortable for the patient and also for the user, and must be economical to the hospital and also for the patient. So you must make a great effort to make it as important for the patient to maintain vital function, prevent infection, and promote healing as well. So when you create this operating theatre, it is meant to be a sterile environment. Patient must be clean and must be draped well. Surgeon who is operating or the assistant who is assisting the surgery must also make sure wear OT attire and clean and sterile glove, and the instrument must be clean and sterile, and also the environment when which the patient in the OT must be clean. Also the air is filtered so that there is minimum amount of possible contamination occur. So in establishing operating theatre, it needs specialized planning and education and execution, which involve not just a civil engineer, there must be also what we call biomedical team involved in the setup. Okay. Where is the location of operating theatre? It's usually away from noise, busy area, high traffic area, and usually only patient and also staff involved in the management allowed to be in. Usually it is allowed, it is located in spirit wing and not in the bottom floor, usually at the top floor, and not the top highest floor, but usually one floor below the top. It must be easy access from emergency department, ICU, and wards. Patient flow is either patient from inpatient from the wards, or could be from daycare, or from day surgery admission. So patient usually will go through surgical reception before entering operating theatre. After the surgery, the patient will be nursed in the recovery area. Once patient stable enough, patient will be transferred into their respective place, either in the wards or back home, as in daycare surgery. The design of operating complex is many. I would like to share with you pattern of design of operating complex. One of it is central corridor plan, which I think if you work in our hospital here, SASMEC, our setup is central corridor plans. There is one big corridor wide on which the patient and also instrument going through that corridor, instrument. And then you can see the once before entering the operating room, there is anesthetic induction room, and also the surgeon or the personnel going to do surgery or assisting surgery going through the operating room through the scrub area. After the surgery, the patient will go out through the exit into the wide corridor. The instrument and all the sterile instrument is simply going through this area as well, going inside, and after the surgery, the instrument is cleaned up at the special area here before it's returned back to the CSSU room. And sometimes there is actually a small back door in which there is corridor around it to allow passage of the T instrument to be assigned to the CSSU. The other model is, we call it racetrack model, in which the corridor is at the circuit, around of the operating room, something like that. So the patient going through the corridor at the periphery of the complex, and so the center complex is where the supply and equipment place. This example of operating theater, I think, is suitable. As you see, this module is in our hospital in SASMAC. If you go into the corridor, wide corridor, the patient is going through the anesthetic induction room and into the operating theater. After the surgery complete, the patient is pushed back into the corridor, back into the observation bay. The surgeon and the assistant going to the scrub room. After scrub, and going to the operating theater through another window. And the instrument, after the surgery, is clean into the clean room here, and the biohazard material is disposed somewhere here, and also the clean instrument is returned back to the CSSU from this alternative corridor behind. That is the setup of the OT. So when you're designing the OT, you must think about the nature of the OT. What type of surgery you want to perform? Either it's going to be clean surgery or dirty emergency cases. Either it is elective or emergency case. Either you want to do procedures such as endoscopy, or you want to design it as a daycare surgery theater. The setup should be different, and the size of the operating theater also different according to the requirement of the surgery. Okay, the number of the operating theater is depend on the workload expected to be received from to the hospital. The more the number of the bed in the hospital, the more the number of the operating theater required. And what type of service you want to give in the hospital? If you planning to give a major surgical service, then you might need to plan for different types suitable for the OT. For example, in our hospital, we have vascular surgeon here. The OT must be set up according to the services. So if you have subspecialized unit in the hospital, you might receive a lot of referral for surgery there. So the number of the surgery will be high, and the number of the OT will be more than other hospital. The number of OT also depend on the staff. If you have less staff, then you need you don't need a lot of OT, operating theater. As a guide, usually in a hospital with a certain number of surgical bed, only 50% of the patient is expected to undergo surgery. So if you have 150 of surgical bed, average stay of 10 days, there will be 15 operations per day. So usually one operating theater can run about 8 hours, and maximum of not more than 5 cases a day. So if you consider that into calculation, so you have 150 bed, you might require about 5 operating theatre and probably 3 elective, 1 emergency, and 1 endoscopy. And also depending on type of surgery you want to do, so it can be vary as well. So operating theatre is zoned into 3 zones. Some room mention 4 zones, but anyway, most important thing is the zone is according to the degree of cleanliness, and depending on the bacteriological count of the respected zone. The inner zone, which is the aseptic region, has low bacterial count as compared to dirty area. So it is important to design in such a way that so that the area is suitable for what cases. And also the design of the zone also important to maintain to make sure the different type of pressure, positive pressure occur. So the positive pressure is usually highest at the aseptic zone. So this will promote the flow of air from the aseptic region into the outer region, dirty region. Why zoning is important? One is to minimize risk of infection. 2, minimize unproductive movement of staff, supplies, and patients. 3, to increase efficiency of operative team members. And to ensure smooth workflow, and to assure as well to decrease hazard in operating theatre and ensure proper positioning of equipment. So what are the rooms and where is it located? Which zone is it located? Sterile aseptic zone is only one actually, or sometimes 2. Operating room is located in this zone. So this is the operating room, which is the most cleanest region. Must be considered aseptic. So those who enter this region must wear OT attire, no, not normal street clothing or shoes. Area next to that is considered clean zone. Clean zone, the corridor, the anesthetic room, the scrub room, and other areas such as recovery room. All this region is considered clean zone. Clean zone. And a personnel who enter this region must also wear OT attire. Other area is considered dirty or alter zone, and this zone divided into 2, either general access or protected area, we call it, or disposable zone. So what are the general access area? It is which are changing room on which you go into OT, change your clothing before entering the clean zone, and reception counter. This area is considered general access area. In the airlock in which the patient going into the operating theatre clean zone, then that's considered area is, we call it outer or general access area. And the other area we should you must know is called it disposable zone. Disposable zone is the area on which the instrument which is used for operation is being clean, being clean, and before is sent back into the CSSU. This area were considered not clean and dirty area, but in this area you must wear OT attire. except in the general access area. As long as you wear clean clothing, it is acceptable. Okay, what are the measurement of operating theater? Minimum requirement in the book they say is 6 times 6 meter, which excluding if there is shaft or cabinet, you must exclude that one. It is 6 times 6, 3 area, which can accommodate 5 to 8 person. The ceiling height is minimum 3.2 meter. If you plan to install radiological equipment, you must have higher ceiling. But the ceiling could be lower at corridor and other places. You need a bigger room if for certain specialized OT such as cardiothoracic, orthopedic, or neurosurgery OT. In certain cardiac surgery, you need additional room next to that to accommodate certain procedure they need. For rooms such as endoscopic or plaster room, you need only small room. You don't have to have this big size of room. Okay, how about the flooring and the walls? It should be non-porous and smooth, seamless, without corners, and should be easily cleanable and repeatedly cleanable. The paint wall must be using seamless material, biostatic and tolerate washing. It must be stretch resistant and withstand wear and tear. The floor is covered with anti-static vinyl sheet. We can see in our tea is covered with this one. And the edge of the wall should be tapered. There shouldn't be any crack, open joint which can harbor dust or bacteria. How about the doors? You need a big doors for entering a patient entrance from anesthetic room. Outpatient will out from the OT room into the lobby, which they say must be a minimum of 1.5 meter width. Door from the utility or from the scrub room could be smaller, 1 meter width. And the door must be washable and durable, and radiation resistant in certain area. If you want to plan, you're planning to build a cabinet or X-ray screen or any pendant must be, if possible, it must be built in. This to ensure ease and efficiency of cleaning and minimize risk of dust collection and infection. And when you're designing OT, you must consider future advances as well. You might need to add in certain instrument for in future. For example, you embark on radiological procedure. You might need mobile X-ray, so that you need to have bigger room for store and for space of the mobile equipment. Okay, scrub room is usually located adjacent to the operating room. It is for sterile hand washing of personnel who is going to perform the surgery and assist in surgery. And it must be providing mixing of hot and cold water. The pipe should not be splashing type, and it must be elbow, foot or infrared operated, easier for the scrub personnel going to on and off the water. And there must be soap dispenser, either automatically activated or using manual activation. And it must allow 2 to 3 personnel to perform scrubbing and scrubbing in a time. How about other facilities? Facility in the OT, such as ventilation, lighting, electrical supply, gases, temperature, and other things. Okay, first thing about ventilation. Ventilation is important to keep the air fresh inside OT. It's measured by air change per hour. Minimum standard are 20 air changes per hour, and there must be fresh air component to air change to be minimum of 5 air changes. The ventilation, the airflow must be laminar flow, which give about 100 to 300 air changes per hour, and usually the airflow is from the top to bottom into the operating table, so that to prevent so allowed should be able to carry bacterial carrying particle load away from the operating table. The air condition is ideally should be centralized, which give positive pressure minimum of 15 Pascal into the operating theater. Window or split aircon should not be used. It's not ideally used because they are pure recirculating units and have convenient pockets on which microbial growth can occur in the system. And the flow is actually flowing from sterile area, which is the patient in the operative field, to the other area, which is considered less sterile. The air flow into the operating theater are filtered. Usually, there are 2 levels of filtration. In the AHU, there is filter which allow 5 micrometer particle to less than that can pass through. So this filter will efficiently remove dust and debris. And before the air is pushed into the operating theater, there is another filter, we call it HEPA filter, high efficiency particulate air, which filter more smaller particles, 0.3 micron, to minimize airborne contamination. And this ventilation system is dedicated to each OT, not shared between other OT. So the air actually going the blowing flow up the air is flow at the center here, and there is actually exhaust flow, which the air retain into the atmosphere. This diagram showing how does the ventilation system occur in the operating theater. So the air from the air condition ventilator going into the first filter I mentioned just now, and then going to another filter, HEPA filter, before being pushed laminally into the patient, into the operating theater. Then the air after that is flowing either going out to the exhaust fan, or going some of them recirculating into the system. So what are the temperature and humidity in operating theater? The ideal temperature is about in between about 18 to 24 degrees Celsius. The ideal temperature for a surgeon is about 19 to 20, but this temperature could not be easily tolerated by patient, because this temperature, low temperature, can cause hypothermia to the patient, especially in neonates and small kids and patients who are undergoing long surgery. But the temperature in the OT usually is 1 degree lower than outside the OT. This will promote a flow of air from operating theater into outside of OT. So a patient must have warm blanket, especially if patient is undergoing prolonged operating theater, prolonged surgery. The humidity is around 40 to 60%, and ideally it's about 55%. And there must be appropriate devices to monitor this temperature and humidity, and this must be regularly checked, usually about 3 times a year. How about lighting? Usually lighting in the operating theater, there are two. One is general lighting and the other one is specialized lighting. These two lighting has different circuit, and the lighting must be special, so that it can be easily clean and not collecting dust. Usually there is 2 operating light attached to the ceiling, and this light give homogeneous light with good illumination on flat and narrow and deep surface cavity, despite there is obstacle from the surgeon's head often. The illumination usually in the region of 40,000 to 130,000 lux at the incision site. So the lux should be higher in the deeper cavity. And these lights must be easily maneuvered and not blurring. Must have power backup. In the setup of power normal, power blackout, there must be backup of power from other source. But this disadvantage of this lighting is it can produce heat and subsequently convection current, and also disturb the airflow, which can potentially cause infection to the operative field, to the operative wound. How about the electrical supply? This must be provided adequately and appropriately placed. The power supply usually located away from the operative area and must be earthing. It could be wall-mounted or pendant system. And power supply in operating theater usually have backup system. There are 3 types of power supply in operating theater. One is essential power supply. Secondly is uninterrupted power supply, and thirdly is normal power supply, which same as in our house or in the hospital, which supplied by TNB. The power supply, normal power supply, usually 3-phase, and if there is absence of normal power supply, the backup supply will be coming from either essential power supply or interrupted power supply, UPS. So essential power supply is the supply of electricity given by genset. It's functioning when normal power from TNB is interrupted. It takes about 7 seconds on standby. So there is pause of about 7 seconds before the generator power supply come into function. Usually the plug from genset is labeled with red colored. Whereas power from UPS is from battery. There is no break of power in the absence of normal power supply, and the plug is usually labeled as yellow color. Okay, the gas and suction system must be placed as well in correct place, and must be easily identified with color coding. And the output, the outlet must be sealed when it's not used. For example, oxygen outlet in the wall mounted is colored white, so that everybody can identify easily. And okay, if you go to inside the operating theater, usually there is two pendant system, which is mounted into the ceiling and flexible. It provide faster and safer, efficient access to medical gases, suction, anesthetic gas scavenging system, and electrical services. It is flexible and easily maneuverable. Water purification system, it is probably important in certain area in which the water supply from the pipe in our place is pipe is not clean and is require bacterial decontamination. So some area require this water purification system. Okay, OT table. It is heavy table, and stable, and must be easily maneuvered. There are two basic types, either mobile or fixed. In our hospital, usually it is a mobile system. The surface must be comfortable and follow the contour of patient body. And possible, there's no, there shouldn't be any metal which can in contact with the patient body. And it is important as well. Now we have a lot of patients with obesity, so the OT table must also can support heavy load. Usually in our setup, the OT table, the normal OT table can support up to 180 kilogram, I think, something like that. So our OT table must be resolution in certain area, so that if you want to do on table cholangiogram, there is no metal element which can obscure the view of the radiograph. It either motorized or handheld easily. It must be able to be tilted in two way, and it must be having this type support, such type of the leg or hand support. What are the facilities usually available in OT? Some areas, some operating complex require central supply department, but not in our region. Some places require intensifier, laboratory, blood bank, storage area. Usually all operating complex have storage area, and importantly, in certain operating theater which conduct teaching facilities must have video camera and conference room. Other facilities to be considered is staff restroom, changing room facility, reception area, and all this region. One more aspect to be considered is safety requirement. The OT must have fire smoke detector, fire hydrant, and extinguisher. The OT must have good communication to communicate between OT or outside region. So we think we discussed just now, OT must have zone and must have area in which the area must be sterile. By right, if you think of sterile area, there shouldn't be any bacteria and contamination. But thing can occur if you do poor scrubbing, gowning, gloving technique. You don't follow proper technique of this. They can cause contamination. If you move inappropriately, for example, you don't want to change position, you don't turn your body so that you face back, your back is facing the back of your colleague which operating the same region, same time. You do excessive movement which can cause potentially touching other non-sterile equipment or instrument. If you don't sometimes care enough, you probably unnoticed the glove evaporated, which can cause potential contamination. Or instrument contamination by unscrubbed person. You ask something from other which is who are not scrubbed. You must be careful. You must make sure the assistant is giving the instrument or glove the right way. A little bit on OT hazard. I think I skip this one because my time is quite short. Do you want me to present on this? Hello?
Lagi 10 minit.
Ada 10 minit. Yang mana satu yang 10 minit? Semua I think I skip this one.